Hey guys, it's Riley here with Rule of Two. I wanted to do a special announcement before we started the latest episodes of Rule of Two. Starting in January of 2019, Rule of Two, which is available on the Collider Podcast YouTube channel. Well, guess what? It's going to move to the main channel. That's right, in January of 2019, Rule of Two on YouTube can be found on Collider Video's main podcast and main YouTube channel. So start there, everyone. January 2019. Enjoy Rule of Two on the Collider Video main YouTube page. And you can always find Rule of Two every Wednesday on the Collider Jedi Council Podcast One feed. So stay tuned for the episode. We'll talk more about it then. Rule of Two coming back hot. Mark Fernandez here. Mark Yodi Riley here.
What up?
Another person in the room that we have to acknowledge.
We've been trying to get her on for a minute, but she's always way too busy.
Well, she costs a lot of money for each appearance.
Yeah,
so.
and we weren't good enough to have her on, but now she's on, right?
Because, she's always wondering, when is there going to be horror in Star Wars so I can be on?
Well, the horror is real in Star Wars.
There is the horror of space, of oppression.
And for the record, I've given up my little abstinence against remember last episode I had a no Last Jedi bashing rule?
Oh, you're done with that already?
I'm done with it. Well, I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back, baby.
Fine, bearing the lead here. Perry Nemiroff joining us here. I want to change the subject.
Grand Moff Nemiroff?
Grand Moff Nemiroff.
Yeah.
The Grand Moff Nemiroff, a staple on Jedi Council of Collider. Here now for the first time on Rule of Two. Welcome, Perry.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
this is great.
And we brought Anakin with us too.
So honored to be here along with Anakin.
Yeah.
And, Yep. And the is it the Hot Toys one?
So this one, you and me did the unboxing of it.
Yeah, but I can't remember what the I don't collect these things, so I don't know.
It's a special edition Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con exclusive.
Right.
And it's Anakin Skywalker with the Sith eyes.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's a very, very special
it's
hot
the
toy.
best.
This hot toy actually sits on my desk, but today we have nothing to talk about. We don't know what's going on. Supposedly tomorrow there's like a Mary Poppins comes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
That it does.
And there's kind of like, this is what I'm hearing on the inside.
Okay.
Can I drop some bomb here? I'm hearing that if there is going to be something around around Episode 9, tomorrow we'll know.
Interesting.
I'm betting against it.
I'm betting against it too. It's just that we would have gotten the name of the movie already or something. It's like, what do you think? I mean,
they've got so many Marvel movies in the spotlight right now when it comes to trailers, between Captain Marvel, Endgame, and also Far From Home.
Yeah.
Just wait.
All three of those come out before Episode 9.
They're going to make Celebration really heavy about The Mandalorian and about Episode 9. I just have this feeling that we're not going to see anything about Episode 9 until then.
I think you're right. I think it is going to be Celebrations, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something along the lines of the Force Awakens teaser we got on Thanksgiving that many years ago.
It's still one of my favorite teaser trailers of all time.
We talked about that last show, how great it was. What if they did that? But you're right. They usually announce the title, then they do the trailer.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten the title yet.
But that's where I was hoping they would follow Endgame's lead and do the trailer, drop it out of nowhere, and reveal the title.
Right, because Endgame, we didn't know the title until that teaser trailer came out, right?
Yeah.
So look, if it's going to happen in 2018, I have it on fairly good authority for whatever that's worth, that if it doesn't happen tomorrow, it's probably not happening in 2018.
Okay. And for those keeping score at home,
tomorrow would be today.
Tomorrow would be today. I was just going to say we are pre-recording.
I paused before. I'm like, wait.
We are so well versed in the Force that we have seen the future. We have seen exactly tomorrow.
So does Mary Poppins come out tomorrow?
Mary Poppins is a Wednesday release.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
December 19th, Mary Poppins Returns is in theaters. We'll see if we get a trailer, but this is Rule of Two. We are going to talk about everything out there in Star Wars right now. What the hell? Let's do it. It is Episode 19, Rule of Two.
Rise. This is going to be a rough one.
This is going to be a rough one. Let's do it.
The last episode was so good.
The last episode was so great, and that is right. It was episode 18, where we figured out everything we need to figure out for episode 9.
Yeah.
We came up with the whole journey of the saga. Like, what would be Perry? Nemiroff is joining us. You heard her in the cold open. Perry, we want to get your thoughts on this first.
And look, to Perry's defense, I just kind of dragged her in here last second. Like,
Yeah.
she had no idea she was prepping for some other piece that she's working on, and I was like, "Why don't you jump on with us because we got nothing today."
Sometimes that's when you get the best content, though, when
Yes.
something just comes out of nowhere.
Yes.
I'm going to pull back the veil a little bit. We have come in with nothing every episode over the past month, I would say, and it has become the best shows.
Yeah.
Because we talk, we fan out. It's episode 9, Rule of 2. We are a celebration of the Star Wars universe on the Podcast One Jedi Council feed. That's the opening.
Yeah.
That's we're doing it.
The
But last
shadow
week,
of the Jedi Council feed.
the shadow of the Jedi
Yeah.
Council feed. Last week, though, we came up with this idea that if George Lucas, we did the hypothesis of what if George Lucas directed the sequel trilogy? What would that look like? And what are some of the ideas he was playing with that he introduced in the original trilogy? The Force, it's a living thing. It binds the universe together. He introduces midichlorians in episode 1. The idea of then Darth Plagueis, the Wise, being able to manipulate the Force, create life, seduces Anakin to the dark side because he doesn't want Padme to die. And that's that, right? That was the George Lucas kind of Force thing.
Yeah.
So we were wondering what would that look like in the sequel trilogy. We started to come up with what would be the greatest payoff because what happened was, what were all the new Force powers introduced throughout the movies? We talked about this, right? In every movie, they introduced Force choke. Then Force speed. Then Force Skype. Everything, right? Force resurrection.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it yet. Perry, do you think it could happen in
Ooh.
episode 9? Could, like a lot of people jumped
As
in on this.
realistically, or in this hypothetical George
No,
Lucas
so
version?
Realistically, it's not going to
So
happen.
look,
Realistically, we're not getting that.
Look, realistically, forget realistically because it's all conjecture. We're all just having fun. But there is rumors out there that say that George Lucas's episode 7 and his sequel trilogy talked a lot about the midichlorians and the wills and all these things, right? I'm sure you've seen these.
There was like
rumors.
even smaller
Yeah.
microorganisms that would
Now,
control
there's also
the midichlorians.
There's also some factual evidence that points to the fact that George Lucas and Michael Arndt, when they wrote Episode 7, it was a full production-ready script that was then taken by Disney, that was then changed by Kasdan and JJ, that one of the main elements, or one of the main things that Kylo Ren's character, who I believe had a different name in the Arndt script, and like now as it starts getting more hazy, but that character who had fallen to the dark side, that his primary sort of mission, or that his job, or that his motivating action was that he was a collector of Jedi and Sith relics. Okay?
Yeah.
Now we get a little tinge of this in The Force Awakens.
Right.
Right. We get a little tinge of this in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Right.
Right.
And then you get a little tinge of it in The Last Jedi. Right. Because you see the amalgam of Luke's archaeology throughout the galaxy
Sure.
inside the Force tree. Right. The books, the compass, all these things. Now, it is our speculation that Kylo, when he was out there looking for things like Darth Vader's helmet, like Anakin's lightsaber, that all of throughout his journey he discovered the myth of Anakin's ultimate fall into the dark side, which was his obsession with saving Padme's life, right? He lost his mother, wanted to save his life. The Emperor seduced him with the idea of that Plagueis the Wise could manipulate the midichlorians into creating life, so that somehow Kylo stumbles on this quest. And that by episode 9, right, Rey somehow dies, right? Like fast forward, Rey dies, and that Kylo is redeemed by bringing her back to life. You know, like some grand operatic closure to
Perfect moment. John Williams score swells. Just lifting her up like.
you know.
It's crazy how much more sense that makes to me when you tee it up like that. Because the second you say, resurrection in Star Wars, hard no, you don't do that. That diminishes the stakes all around.
Right.
But if you kind of, laid the little breadcrumbs like that and built up to a big character moment, that actually doesn't sound so far out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
It doesn't, because look, it also asks, not to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're fine.
it also asks or begs the question: will Kylo Ren be redeemed? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
I got
Yeah.
lots of thoughts on that.
So go ahead. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's a big debate happening now on everywhere.
It's interesting going back and, rewatching or re-listening to our thoughts, a year ago about that debate too. But after the events of Last Jedi, I think that the answer is still no to that. I don't see him ever being redeemed. It would almost diminish everything that's happened to him, and especially when we hit the end of something like Last Jedi with what happens to Luke Skywalker. I feel like, actually, now that I'm explaining this, I feel like I might be tilting towards the other side too, because I feel like the only way where I would be satisfied if he was redeemed is if something along the lines of Luke Force Ghost came back to his life and was kind of coaching him from beyond and somehow managed to tip the scale for him in that kind of way. I think the only way for him to be redeemed is if it's by Luke's hand. Otherwise, no.
I love that because it goes into the thing I've wanted, which is Luke Skywalker haunting his nephew. See you around, kid, is what he says. And so he's like his conscience. He becomes the conscience of Kylo Ren to maybe...
It's the moment in the throne room, the fight in the throne room with what happens with Rey, that made me kind of push that off the game board, though. That is their big moment. I love the fact that is where she tries.
You're right.
But I don't want that moment diminished. So I feel like she's out of the equation, and if you bring Luke in, that's your avenue.
I love that.
Okay, so first of all, you're absolutely right that's the moment where he makes his choice, right? Because even in The Last Jedi, everything before that moment seemed that Kylo was teetering on the edge of flipping, right? You get the whole thing.
The light is calling me. It calls me again. That's in Force
the light calls
Awakens.
me. He doesn't shoot Leia. Like, you have evidence, right? And then you're right. At that point, there is a moment of decision where you're not sure. It's probably the best moment in the whole movie. And then ultimately he chooses the dark, right? So, but let's put our detective caps on. Okay. Let's go beyond that moment up until the end of The Last Jedi. You have him killing Snoke. Then you have him against Luke, kill that dude. You have him realizing that Luke got the better of him, right? And then you have him, storming that base with the 8 people that are left in the rebellion or whatever it is.
Right.
And you have him looking up at the ship and then having the last little Force connection with Rey.
Right.
Now, when Rey looks at Kylo, okay, in my opinion, she's looking at him with the same eyes that Luke looked at Vader on Endor. Okay? There's still good in you. I'm not giving up on you. Rey has taken on that mantle because even in The Last Jedi, she is upset with Luke at how Luke has treated Kylo. And like to the point where they have a fight, right? Like they have the only time that you almost get like an interesting moment in that whole thing is when they actually fight with each other, you know? And like he's fighting with a stick and like all this stuff. And she's angry because she feels that Luke did Kylo wrong, right? Yeah. And at the end of the movie, Kylo looks up at the stairs or the ramp of the ship, sees Rey, even though it's like a Force vision thing, right? Like, they're feeling each other. And she's looking at him with eyes of, I don't know, it almost feels like a romance, right? And like a lot of people talk about Reylo, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's
a big thing kids are talking about.
Reylo's a big thing.
Yeah.
So, given all this evidence, do you still think that there's no opportunity for redemption? There's evidence there that says otherwise.
I think there's opportunity for redemption. I just think it's going to require a lot of convincing from my perspective, because I mean, with any franchise, that's one of the things that, I'm not the biggest fan of. When you have a really big moment where they continue the story and something that happens after almost wipes the slate clean to the point that I can't have the same powerful experience with that moment when I go back to a previous installment.
Right.
So I want to see them do something, whether it's redemption or no redemption for him, where it still maintains that throne room feeling when he makes that decision. So if they can find a way to build upon that, I'm I'm cool with that being a possibility, but it seems like a really challenging thing to do, especially with everything we went through with Force Awakens. I mean, we're talking about someone who not only killed 2 Star Wars icons, but one was his father, one was his teacher, and it's not like he did, a little something bad. He was out to destroy and murder every single person at that base, and that is a very big thing to come back from.
Well, I want to continue to keep our caps on, our detective caps on, because my favorite thing about Star Wars in a lot of ways is the rhythms and the echoes of story. Kylo Ren is following a Vader storyline. If you look at it in a way that in Empire Strikes Back, Vader wants to recruit Luke. Father and son take over the galaxy. They fight, they fight, they fight. That's exactly what happened with Kylo and Rey in Last Jedi. She shows up just like Luke did. But there's a little bit of a flip. She shows up like Luke did in Return of the Jedi. I feel good in him. And then they fight. And classic Sith move is, no, join me. Now we can rule the galaxy together. And she pulls a Luke and goes, no, I'm out. No way. And they fight over the lightsaber. So there's some Darth Vader shades happening here. We already know, though, he's gravitating towards the light. But to your point, Perry, yeah, he killed his Han Solo.
In talking about this, though, I also think there's a big difference in the end of his journey being, okay, we've wiped the slate clean for you. You are on a good page now. You and Rey go off into the sunset together, rather than, let's say, he has his one teeny tiny redeeming moment before dying.
That's where I think they're going to go. I mean, that's kind of another move in Star Wars.
So you think they'll kill Kylo in Episode 9?
I think so. I think he will do something that will redeem him on paper. Whether it's executed or not remains to be seen. But
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. I think that if you did do that, it'd be such an obvious
Vader move,
mimicry of episodes 4, 5, and 6, that then you've completely wasted 3 movies.
I mean,
because right
waste,
now,
or is it the journey to that moment? Because to Perry's point, it's got to be not planned, but maybe it's planned, but it's got to feel satisfying.
I don't necessarily think it would be a big waste, too. Let's say Rey winds up in a position where she's basically the one carrying the torch for a new Jedi Order. Her experiences with Kylo, that basically shapes her entire journey. She would never end up in that spot without what happened with him.
That's very true. I love that.
But again, that is mimicry of 4, 5, and 6. There's no difference, right? Because what were we waiting for 40 years was to see Luke rebuild the Jedi Order. We never got it, right? Yeah. We got 3 minutes of it, if that, maybe 35 seconds of it. But we never got that, right? But that was what we all thought would happen, and that's what the entire EU is fundamentally based on, is a rebuilding of the Jedi Order, right? Now, if you're telling me that that's the exact same thing we're going to get with Episode 9, is somehow Rey overcomes, defeats Kylo. Kylo at the last second looks up and says, "I'm sorry," and then dies. I feel like shit for everything I've done, and dies, and it's the same friggin' thing. I think JJ is on a mission to, and I think this is very interesting, because I think that Episode 9 is going to be the film that's going to have the most impact by the fans in it.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
I think that Episode 7 was about bringing back the old fans, right? Bringing back the 4, 5, and 6 loyalists, which it did an incredible job at. I think Episode 8 was about subverting expectations, right? That's what Rian Johnson did, right? Like that, Red Letter Media video where, have you seen that one where he's having dinner, he's having wine, and
not seen that.
And then
No.
and then a chef comes in and he's looks at the wine, he's like, yeah, pour me a wine, and instead of pouring it in the cup, he pours it all over the table. And he starts laughing.
God.
That's the Rian Johnson thing, right? He's subverting all the expectations.
Sure.
Episode 9, I think, is really going to be about J.J. Abrams really doing his best efforts to leave Star Wars in a better place than he found it. And that is a huge challenge. And for the only reason for that to actually work, he's going to have to innovate and create a legacy that's going to live on for that next series of EU type books. They're going to build what happened to the Skywalker saga after Episode 9, and it can't be the same thing of Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order. Like it's not good enough.
Yeah, but this is why I love The Last Jedi. The ending really doesn't give you a heads up on where we're going. Like, there are so many possibilities. Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order, I could see happening in 9 because we haven't seen that. We didn't get to see that with Luke. We didn't get to see that in the prequels, obviously, because it was already built. So that could be an interesting way to go. We don't even know the time frame. Is it going to be 5 years, 2 years, 10 years? What are we going to see? Are we already going to be established? Are there going to be rebels hiding in secret missions a la Rogue One? There are so many different directions you can go. But to go to the point that we're all talking about with Kylo Ren, I hope he goes out a villain. I hope he's never redeemed. I would like to see him fully embrace the dark side and be a tragic character.
Let me stop you right there. Perry, feel free to jump in and interrupt at any point. If that's the case, and Rey's parents are truly just a bunch of filthy junk traders, right? Then that's how the Skywalker saga ends with a villain?
No, absolutely not. There's more that would happen.
You just said.
No, for the villain. For
right
Kylo Ren.
No, that's a very good point that I didn't necessarily think of in that exact way.
Yeah.
Because the saga, I mean, he is the end of the family line.
Correct.
He's the last one.
We don't know what's going to happen with the character of Leia, right? Because she's alive in 9. But you're right. I didn't even think about that, actually.
That's it.
I can't believe that's the first time I've ever thought about that either.
Welcome to the rule of 2, Perry.
Yeah, I didn't really put it in that way. So you're saying, though, this is interesting. Okay, I think we got our show, guys.
Yeah.
Congratulations, everyone. Well done.
Look, there's still things I want to talk about with Perry.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
but the idea of him not being redeemed leaves the Skywalkers in a bummer, right? It just becomes, ooh.
It takes the greatest film franchise of all time, perhaps the greatest story ever told, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, and it completely degrades it and minimizes it to a villain that doesn't have much of an interesting out. Like, I don't know about that.
Or could it break the mold of the traditional term of family? Because one of my favorite things in Last Jedi was the whole thing about Kylo's perspective on killing the past and getting rid of it, how that compares to what Luke is doing, where he is basically finally learning to accept the past and then build with it. So what if it necessarily isn't the continuation of the Skywalkers by blood, but it's more of continuing through Luke's lessons to Rey, and then her basically kind of taking up where he left off and using everything from his past to build for a future for everybody. And it's just not a blood family, but...
Sure, but then...
Yes, I love that. That's a thematic kind of a theme, right? And that, Luke inspiring the galaxy at the end of The Last Jedi, he becomes a legend now. People are telling his story. Could that be the legacy of the Skywalkers?
So look, there's a few things here. And one of them really, 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 really concerns me.
Yeah,
okay?
I see it.
I think that there's going to be little to no Luke Skywalker in Episode 9.
I agree.
Don't say it.
Yeah,
Really?
I think so, too.
I think it's going to be...
I think he'll
so
be there
small.
in Force Ghost capacity. I think it's like
if you were to combine all his screen time into screen time, you're probably going to get between 60 and 90 seconds in the entire movie.
No way.
I think so.
No way.
I
think he'll
thought
get
you were
more.
going to say something like 6 to 9 minutes, and I'm like, well, people won Academy Awards on that amount of screen time.
Judi Dench.
I would really be shocked if there was that little of him in this movie.
I'm telling you that's my gut.
Especially with the response to Last Jedi.
Yes.
I fall on the side of the divide where I liked what they did with Luke, and I liked the way he went out because it was meaningful and it was something I could take with me.
Same, Perry.
But
we're on the same page
if we're
there.
in a position in Episode 9 where that really is almost completely the end, minus maybe 90 seconds of Luke's journey and his teachings, that would feel like a major missed opportunity for one of the most important cinematic characters of all time. Whereas if they use the Force Ghost route and they infuse him throughout the entirety of Episode 9, that's a way to infuse maybe even characters who aren't blood related to the Skywalkers, and you can continue the legacy.
So first of all, welcome to the Disney sequels. Okay, it's all about subverting expectations. It's all about We already have a track. Like, we know he's in episode 9. We know
Yes.
that, okay? But I mean, think about it. So let's say that we go with Perry's theory, okay? That he's going to be in there. What do you think? Maybe enough? You're thinking 6 to 9 minutes of screen time? Which is very little.
I would probably say, if I had to throw out a number right now and place a bet, I would go with 10 minutes, which sounds like at least 3 solid, meaningful, meaty scenes to me.
Okay, so then we can assume that those meaty scenes will happen. At least 2 of the 3 will happen with Rey.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? To go with the meter and the rhyme.
Okay.
Of
I
Obi-Wan.
see the appearances of Obi-Wan in Empire Strikes Back. He keeps showing up. Right?
Right.
And he lays in
shows
some
up.
exposition, some mythology, some world building,
Yeah.
some guidance, and then
He shows up on Hoth, shows up on Dagobah.
shows up on Hoth, shows up on Dagobah, right?
And-
Shows up on Dagobah again for the last time in Return
Right.
of the Jedi. He had one scene in Return of the Jedi.
Okay. So about the same.
Right, until the
so
end
you would
when
say
he
Luke
shows
is
up.
about the same as Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I'm going with it. I could also say that the same kind of impact that Yoda had in The Last Jedi. One scene, he appears, he does something. I don't want it either, Perry. Perry's shaking her head. I'm like, no. I want, again, if I don't get...
It's going to be a ghost party?
I want, a ghost party at the end with everybody. I would love Luke to not only appear to Rey, but to Ben. I've been banging this drum.
I know you have.
I love the idea because I think it's there, but I'm going to Perry's point right now with this one in particular.
Okay.
The fans will
But let's
riot
stop
if
there-
we don't get
let's
more.
stop there for a second. Let's
Okay.
stop there for a second. Right? We're going to keep our detective hats on, right? So you follow the evidence, right?
Okay.
So let's go with that for a second. Let's say that he does go to Luke. Okay?
Who you mean? Kylo Ren goes to Luke.
I'm sorry,
Or-
Kylo Ren goes to Luke.
So Luke. Well.
Okay? Let's
All
just
right.
let's go with this. I mean, you've been talking about that on this show for a long time.
No. I was.
right?
The wording was weird because I feel like Luke will go to him because he's the Force ghost. But
I'm sorry, yeah. Luke
Yeah.
goes to Kylo Ren.
Right.
He appears to him as a Force ghost, as a blue glowy. What is his point? What is his mission? Like, what is his motivation?
to try to bring him back from the darkness.
Okay, so let's say he tries to bring him back from the darkness. Okay, let's go with that. And he doesn't, right? To say to you that he's unredeemable, right? Mm-hmm. That's a waste of time.
Sure.
So it's
a character.
another dead end in the Star Wars sequels, right?
Could be, but
I don't think J.J. Abrams is going to give us a ton of dead ends, right? Because
No, he
if you
can't.
look
And
at
he can't.
if
He
you look
really
at if you look
can't.
at Last Jedi, my favorite character, and like I've talked about this here, one of my favorite characters in all the sequels is Finn.
Yeah.
Finn in The Last Jedi is a dead end. He's like, I would have cut all that Finn stuff out because it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't do anything for the story. You can eliminate that entire thing, all of it. Like Finn, I forget her name. Rose, Canto Bite, their little stupid plot to like mess up the ship so they couldn't track him anymore. You can cut all of that out, and the movie is still exactly the same.
Very true. But
So-
all those moments are character moments for Finn because that's where he learns to stay and fight. He finally becomes a part of the rebellion. I agree. I'm with you on the fact that the execution wasn't great.
Right.
That's my
Sure,
nitpicky stuff from from that movie.
But aside from that, it's like, my point is, Star Wars can't afford dead ends.
No, and I wouldn't call that a dead end. If he goes to Kylo Ren, this is character stuff we're talking about. And the character stuff is going to motivate and affect other characters, and that's for Rey. That's Rey's stuff that I think is going there. Because if she's banging the drum, there's good in Kylo Ren, and Luke, and there's somehow Luke's involved, and then he comes back and goes, no, there's nothing but darkness, Rey. That then becomes something, and that becomes something that she, a conflict between her and her master. That's good storytelling.
Do you think, Perry,
Yeah.
when I watched Venom for the first time the other night, and I had your voice ringing in my head as I was watching it. And Perry,
Curious as to why now.
Perry said something very eloquent about Venom that I really took into the viewing with me.
Okay.
Which was that she enjoyed it as a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a buddy film, right?
Yeah.
Between
Yeah.
Venom and Tom Hardy. If Luke is there with Kylo, is it that same kind of relationship? What are your thoughts if Luke actually does start appearing to Kylo? Because he does tease it to him. He's like, destroy me now and I'll be more powerful than you could ever imagine. I'll always be with you, just like your father.
Right.
He tells him something along that line in The Last Jedi.
No, it's an interesting way to look at it. I think it could be something like that. In discussing all of this, it's like we've got two big things that we're talking about right now. Whether or not Kylo Ren can be redeemed, and then also how much of the movie Luke is going to be in. And I have a feeling that this is the question that I need to answer first. The will Kylo be redeemed question, because where it ends up will then dictate how much and in what capacity I think Luke is going to return. Because let's say he is redeemed, then I would take all the Luke material and I would put it in the Kylo Ren department rather than the Rey department, because if that was their journey the entire time, and if Kylo is basically in real life fighting against Rey, trying to destroy Rey and everything she's working towards, but then he had someone like Luke in his ear the entire time, I do kind of like the idea of Luke in that way and Rey in real world kind of chipping away at Kylo to reach this ultimate end where maybe we have to say goodbye to him, but at least he's got that one last little moment.
I love that.
First of all, like hearing that then makes me think, what the hell? And I thought this about Last Jedi. What the hell is Rey going to be doing in this movie?
That's why I love the end of The Last Jedi. We don't know.
I mean, she did.
Is she going to get like? Well, one, let's do, yeah, absolutely. I love The Last Jedi.
Of course you do, and I respect you for it. And I tried to watch it the other day again.
How'd it go? That's not so good.
Not so good, but I did. I love that last scene. You know, because look, one thing I will say about The Last Jedi, it is photographed beautifully. Like,
oh yeah.
The technical execution piece on The Last Jedi is all AAA stuff, you know? And in that last scene, I keep watching that last scene, right? The confrontation between Luke and Kylo.
Yeah.
Right? And I keep watching that scene over and over and over again. And first of all, there's one thing about that scene that completely throws me off, and is that for 15 minutes you go back with Poe Dameron, who I think is terrible in that movie, and all that, well, you should follow him, and like after he killed half the entire fleet. But anyway, aside from all that, and the fact that the rebellion is like literally, like if you count them on screen, it's like I think it's literally 7 people. But anyway,
good, yeah.
When you look at these two, there's one thing that Adam Driver does that gives me cause to pause over all my redemption theories, and it's that Adam Driver does an excellent job in that movie. Completely makes me believe that he does want Luke dead, that he wants nothing to do with the light side. That he doesn't give a crap about, you know, his little sidekick character. I forget his name right now in the movie.
Hux.
Hux. He doesn't give a crap about Hux. Everybody are just pawns.
I don't think he's ever given a crap about Hux.
Yeah. But everybody are pawns in his ultimate mission, which is not very clear to me yet. The only mission I've ever gotten from Kylo Ren is let me finish what you started.
Well,
which is maybe to rule the galaxy as father and son or whatever the hell it might be.
He wanted to kill Luke Skywalker. That was his mission. From Force Awakens, where is Luke Skywalker, to The Last Jedi, where is he again? I'm going to kill him.
Right.
And then now, and then it leads me to believe, because when Rey and has the confrontation in the throne room at the end there, he said, join me. Classic Sith move. Join me, we'll take over the galaxy now. So I think we're going to get a little bit of that. I mean, he also, I think, wanted to take over the First Order. I think that was a very slight character moment for him that you knew he wanted to do. In
Empire, you're convinced completely that Darth Vader is evil incarnate and has no possible redemption.
Right.
Right? I mean, there's no...
That's the thing. See, yes, there's nothing in Vader's arc until the audience gets that notion that he is actually Luke's father. That then makes you believe that there is somebody under there that was
very
good.
Good point. Very good point.
Because up until that point,
that reveal changes who he is.
Changes the audience. But here's where I get your point with Kylo Ren. We've known Kylo Ren. We've seen Under the Mask. We knew he's the son of Leia and Han, two of the most endearing characters in all of Star Wars. So then when he kills...
Trained by Luke Skywalker.
So then when he kills one of the most iconic film characters in history... Han in Han Solo, the entire audience is like, F you, dude. Not only did you kill your father, but you killed my guy. You killed one of my favorite characters growing up. That automatically does the opposite of what we saw in Empire, which is put hatred in him. No, I don't want him redeemed because he killed my Han Solo.
You know what? Sorry, I feel like we're dominating the convo here, but
yeah, well, I got on my soapbox.
Darth Vader does the same thing to Han that Kylo does in a way, like narratively speaking.
Okay.
Because for the first time in Star Wars, it's Darth Vader that manages to clip the proverbial, you know what I mean? Like de-man Han Solo, right? Like Han Solo is no longer the guy who gets away from all the toughest situations anymore after he comes across Darth, and Darth puts him in carbonite.
Yeah, Darth stops
in
the
the way you're
blasters.
describing it right now, it makes for a really poetic way to kind of mirror Darth Vader's arc, but with Kylo not being able to be redeemed.
Yeah.
It's like everything we're saying about Darth Vader, Kylo Ren is basically taking it to another level.
No, I know. To your point, he stops the blaster bolts on Bespin. He then tortures him, puts him on that thing, drops him in carbonite, gives him to the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy.
Yeah.
That's some pretty dark, you know what. He's
Yeah.
like, get
And
out of
then
here.
Kylo walks him out, but
Well, Kylo kills him.
Kylo kills him.
Kylo goes, I'll do you one better. But Kylo Ren killing his father is his ultimate last step to the dark side, to get rid of that light. That was a sacrifice to Snoke. He's like, you don't think I can do it? Because Snoke says it in Force Awakens. I'm sensing the light in you still.
Yeah.
No, I can do this. I can do this. Kills Han Solo. In the novelization, he's hurting from it. He's like really, really like it's hitting him because he's still struggling with it. I didn't read all the way through Last Jedi. You probably know better than I do, Perry. But it's hard. It's such an interesting question on like where are we going to land?
You know what else it makes me think? That Kylo Ren's a far more interesting character than Rey.
I would agree with that 100%. Are you kidding me?
Isn't the villain
Always a little bit
often
more. Yeah.
interesting than the
First of all, yes.
good-hearted?
First of all, yes, but even from a narrative dynamic point of view, if you look at the prequels, if you look at the original trilogy, Obi-Wan's a very interesting character. Anakin Skywalker's an interesting character, even though he falls to the dark, and that's what makes him even more interesting. He gets the best of both worlds. But Luke is a very interesting character. Han's a very interesting character. Leia's a very interesting character. I think that something happens, and like, I think Daisy Ridley's amazing. Like one thing I will say about the sequels is that they did an incredible job with actors. It's like
Casting, yeah.
to me, the sequels are far more like character pieces than they are like story, mythology, like plot-driven films, right? Like the prequels and the original trilogy are very heavy on the story element of it, right? Like the story is extremely important. With these two sequels that I've seen so far, the character development seems to me more important than the plot itself. Because like if you really think about it, Rey goes back to bring Luke so that Luke can help them fight the First Order.
Right.
Right? She fails in that, and she gets a new mission halfway through it.
Well, she gives up on Luke because Luke's not budging.
Right, so she
Right.
fails.
So she fails,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
But then
then
also has that basically the connection with Kylo goes.
So then she has
I'm
a
gonna,
second mission.
Yeah, turn
right?
him.
Turn Kylo. She goes and does that, and she fails at that one as well, right? Like that's why I think like I forget who it said, but somebody said the Last Jedi is all about failure.
It's building character
it
through failure.
absolutely
Yeah,
is.
yeah, absolutely.
That whole
And-
movie is about failing and that being the best teacher.
Well, it's about
And Yoda says
failing
that-
and not having your own personal expectations met. That's why the idea of Rey being from nobody familiar to us always really struck a chord with me, because we're so trained to look at franchises, whether we're talking about Star Wars or anything, and just assuming you are important because you are related to that person who is super important. So the fact that she's got to take charge and become a leader and embrace all these abilities that she never even knew she had without that kind of guarantee that because it's part of my lineage, I
Yeah.
can do it, that seems like a really interesting new challenge to me.
Yes, and I hear you on that, and I think it's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
but just to keep going down that thread, right? So even Yoda says, right, like failure is the greatest teacher, and I actually that to me is the single most important line in The Last Jedi. I love that line.
Yeah.
I'm a chess player. I'm not very good at it, but the reason I love chess so much is that it's the only game that it's fun to lose at.
Yeah.
Because every time you lose, you learn more than when you win. Because when you win, everything went according to plan.
Right.
When you lose is when you have to think on your feet.
Yeah.
So I totally love that. But so then what's Rey's third mission in The Last Jedi? Right? Like she fails with Kylo. She failed with Luke. What's her third mission?
She succeeds in her third mission. It's to learn the ways of the Force and to spread that spark throughout the galaxy because she does take the books from Luke. the old Jedi text that,
Right.
that Luke thought, and I think Yoda knew, being all one with the Force, I think he knew that the books were with Rey, and that's why he went and
But-
killed it.
but
Because
but
that taught
after the
then
fight-
Luke, which was so great.
After the fight with Kylo, what happens to Rey? Like right after that fight, she disappears, right? And she ends up somehow in the Millennium Falcon. And she ends up somehow flying around, has a little bit of a space fight, and then moves the rocks.
Yeah, I think she was able to call Chewie because Chewie took off, and I think they had this plan.
Yeah.
It made sense to me, at least.
So ultimately, like all she really does in The Last Jedi is try to get Luke fail, try to turn Kylo fail. Have the best part of The Last Jedi, without a doubt, in my opinion, is the sexual tension that you get between Kylo and Rey. Like those
Sure.
are the best scenes in the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah,
like
they're
all
great.
those moments where they're talking to each other through the Force. I could have watched that for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Like I thought that relationship was fascinating, right? But ultimately, where was it going, right? It was going to maybe, to some of the fans' point, that the ultimate goal is to rule the galaxy with 2 Jedi, right? Like that's what the rule of Sith or Sith, even though he's not a Sith, but that's their dream, right? Is to buddy up and like rule the galaxy, right? That
Right.
was Darth Vader's thing. But with Rey, once she has that turn, she goes and she moves the rocks, right? Oh God, rocks, right? Which is supposed to be a joke. Which, God, to me, that's like such a huge problem. With like, just when you get to something interesting, they throw a friggin' stupid joke in that movie. It's like the movie does such a good job at building and then destroying it with bad jokes. But that's really all you
Podcast
get
for
from
another
her.
time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but that's really all you get from her in that, right?
Oh, it's because it's the middle movie in a trilogy, too. It's
Yeah.
like we couldn't wind up in a place where, she succeeded, because then I think we wouldn't be having half as much discussions about what the future is of Star Wars in this iteration of the franchise as we are. It's because she succeeds. She's really the only hope for the Jedi Order. And
She
the
is.
fact that
She is
maybe
the
she
last
doesn't know
Jedi.
specifically what she's going to do with all this information that she got from Luke and even these books, but the fact that she has them, that's like the teeny little
That she
nugget of
saved them.
potential.
That she saved them.
She saves them.
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, keep going.
Oh yeah, and absolutely. It's just you can't wind up in a place in The Last Jedi where you feel any sort of like a satisfying conclusion, and it's this idea of fail, but now I have this thing in the palm of my hands that could make me succeed in the future. That's what's kind of teeing up the next film.
And I think, with all due respect, my friend, but
Yeah.
think you are really discrediting Rey in a way that, if failure is the theme
Yeah.
of The Last Jedi,
Which it definitely is.
and failure being the greatest teacher,
Yep.
she fails at bringing Kylo back. She fails at bringing the Master Luke Skywalker back. I mean, these are big blows. She fails at learning even her parents. You could say
Yeah,
she
yeah.
got
That's a failure too, you're right.
she gets some information, and we can believe Kylo or not, or see what happens in Episode 9. But those are all powerful character moments. I mean, for her to go to like Luke Skywalker, take her reaction when she hears Luke Skywalker in Force Awakens. Luke Skywalker, I thought he's a myth. And then she meets him. And then he basically turns her away. Does a couple and then she's like, you know what? She has to go. At one moment she fights him, and then in that moment she goes, "You're lost. I'm out." That's powerful stuff. For her to do that, and then to go and save everyone, and then get that teaching back in her head from Luke. Oh, rocks, which I love, because there is that moment. It's so good. Come on, I'm throwing facts your way.
No. It's just what you just made me think about.
What? Oh,
This is
no.
and it's sad because we always say we're never going to talk about The Last Jedi, and then we
Okay.
always end up talking about it. But you know how like Luke,
I blame him.
Like Luke had disconnected himself from the Force. Like I just had that flash in my mind, like that he's doing with the stick thing, even though he like jumps across with like to kill the fish. Like that one scene of him like lifting himself up with the Force after he falls.
Yeah.
Like that's
You didn't like that?
I mean, I thought the whole point was you're disconnected from the Force. Like you turn pretty quickly there, my friend.
Well, yeah, Ray's pulling it out of him. Are you kidding me? Ray shows
With a
up.
stick fight?
Well, come on. He's not going to pull his lightsaber.
I know, but-
She pulls a lightsaber on him. She's going dark side.
But I'm just talking about consistency of character. Like if
Yeah.
you're pulling away from the Force, really after all this time of being outside the Force, you're going to use it to avoid falling 5 inches on the ground?
See, and you know what's so great about movies? That's the one moment I felt that she was finally pulling him out and back into the
Right,
Force.
right. Right.
Because
That makes sense. That makes
she
sense.
literally pulls a lightsaber on Master Luke Skywalker and attacks him. And he, with training that doesn't need to be force-sensitive training,
Right.
he is able to dodge her. And then the one moment that he falls back, why don't you just fall? She pulls the force out of him.
Yeah.
She literally... Wake up, dude.
Well, that's the beauty of consistency of character, too, is then having that, establishing it, and then challenging it.
Yes. Then it's challenged. He's challenged by Rey at that moment. And what does he do after that moment? She takes off, right? Takes all the Jedi texts. He goes to burn down the tree and can't do it because Rey's still in her mind. And then who shows up? Yoda for the final message.
Right.
Come on. It's beautiful.
All right, so let's keep going down this thread. Okay?
Yeah.
So now
hit it.
we know that we have a lot of character exposition that you can have all kinds of theories about where Kylo's story is going, right? Like Kylo's story is more like a traditional story, right? It's got like an origin, it's got some conflict, it's got some climax, it's got some some different things pulling him in different directions. Where can you extrapolate Rey's story from here? Like, you're not the last Jedi you will not be, and whatever. Rebuild the Jedi Order under the new tutelage of the great Poe Dameron. And like Poe Dameron is like the new guy and all this stuff. So we're right. Something's going to happen to Leia. Okay? Because rest in peace, we all know that in reality
The reality is worse than the story right now.
Yes.
We don't have Carrie Fisher.
We don't have Carrie Fisher. We know that a lot of her scenes in Episode 9 from news reports that we've reported on are elements that they shot in Episode 8 that they're repurposing, stuff that they shot from Episode 7 that they're repurposing. So obviously you're going to have to sort out the Leia stuff, I believe, in the first act. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I would be shocked if they took it beyond that.
Right, right. So somehow you have to resolve that there, okay? Yeah. What is the arc? Like, what's not the arc? What's the trajectory for Rey's arc in Episode 9? Like, I understand Kylo's potential trajectory, but what the hell is Rey? Like, are they inevitably coming into a conflict with each other where she's going to have to kill him to restore peace and balance to the galaxy?
I think it's, again...
I mean, is that the inevitable thing? Because that's a very different mission than trying to rebuild the Jedi.
Right, but same with Luke. Where was Luke in Return of the Jedi? You must kill Darth Vader.
Right.
Right? Because they're trying to kill the Sith.
I won't kill him. There's still good in him, I feel.
And I think that...
creates the conflict of the arc, though.
Yeah, but I wonder if maybe that's going to be a little, mirror echo that Obi-Wan did for Luke, that Luke will in turn do for Rey, which is you must kill Kylo Ren.
Okay, so then that's the question for you. Do you think Rey wants to redeem Kylo?
It's an interesting question to pose given where Last Jedi ended. Because even as you were describing it before, after the throne room scene, it's not like we get to spend a whole lot of time with her processing what just happened.
She's
off onto the exactly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's interesting to be in that kind of situation trying to predict where she's going to go when we didn't really even get into her headspace much at all after that happened. So based on that fight sequence and her reuniting with everyone, I would imagine she's basically looking at Kylo with a big fat villain label on his forehead, but it also can't be that simple in the next movie. It's like, I thought you were going to ask me, what is Rey's arc from here? And it even though I've loved that character, and I really do enjoy both movies that we've gotten with her, at this point, the only thing that my mind can even picture is like a very traditional and, dare I say, bland and dull hero's journey where, she is the leader, she is the good, she will rekindle the Jedi Order. And I can't really pick any pieces from what I've seen before to say this is how we're going to complicate her journey now.
Yeah, it's hard to say what is going to happen. You could say rebuild the Jedi Order, sure.
That's never happening.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either.
Because that's a television show.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Empire Strikes Back.
Disney streaming with Mark Hamill building the Jedi Order.
Star Wars has tried to do this twice, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think the most effective one that they did was the gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, where it's 10 years later.
Right.
Right? Like, 10 years have passed? Okay, I buy that, I buy now that Obi-Wan Kenobi has a mullet, right? I buy now that Jake Lloyd isn't Jake Lloyd, he's Hayden Christensen.
Right.
I buy now that Anakin saved Obi-Wan from a pit of Gundarks And like, you know, I buy now all, you know, like that she's no longer the queen, she's a senator, that he's been training with Obi-Wan for 10 years.
Right.
That a lot has happened in the Jedi, right? So that's one way to handle it. Another way to handle it is Empire Strikes Back, right?
Right.
With the classic 80s montage, which they do a great job with. But in the 80s montage, you get all this training of Luke, right?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Right? So now, let's say that, like, the whole Jedi Order thing can only be introduced as a plot story device or whatever if there is a passage of time between Last Jedi and whatever we get next. Which I think, to be honest with you, that's probably what they're going to go with. Because, like, I don't think they can do the immediately after thing.
I totally agree with you there. And what
Wait,
if it's...
you think that it's going to be a passage of time so that when we kick off with episode 9, she's already in the zone of creating the new Jedi Order?
I think that that's, if the Jedi Order is going to play into it as a storytelling device, the only way it's going to show up, it's either at the end of episode 9.
That's where my mind is. I don't think episode 9 is going to have much of anything to do with us seeing her physically with other individuals recreate the Jedi Order. I think
I agree.
episode 9 is going to be a journey of her figuring out how best to do that without repeating past mistakes. And they're going to end up in a place where she is ready and has the knowledge and has the experience to do it and to do it right.
And let's
Right,
throw
but is she
this
on a
out
collision
there.
course with Kylo, though?
I
Absolutely.
think her collision course with Kylo is going to be key to her figuring out how to nail
Because
it.
he wants to stop that. I guarantee you he will want to find Rey again and maybe stop that. But think about it this way. Let's put it in the time frame and where we know at the end of The Last Jedi. And I know you make the joke about it, but I love this idea that there are 7 people left in the Resistance. That, to me, has the entire galaxy is against them, and their backs are to the wall, which is any great... All hope is lost.
4 weeks before, they had an entire republic.
Yeah, I know. And then they were all destroyed in the ships and leaving
Before 4 planets were destroyed, the republic was much bigger than 4 planets. But
the 4 planets and billions of people were gone, and then Force Awakens happened.
Those are all details that obviously they didn't really care
Well,
too much about.
they blew up all the ships, and it was just that last ship, and then they escaped in the Millennium Falcon. But that, and we talk about story and screenwriting all the time. And in the middle section of the screenplay, at one point towards the end, past the midpoint to the 75 page where you kind of hook people in, all hope is lost. That's where we're at with The Last Jedi. All hope is lost. 7 people left and Rey. So what is that going to do for episode 9? Then you start that new story, that last part, that last movie in the trilogy. Could she be collecting Force-sensitive people and turning them to their cause? So they're not Jedi yet, but she's being able to find people. Hell, what if
So she's
some
rebuilding an
people
army.
in
Why
the...
else put Broom Kid in the movie?
Exactly.
What is the point of that
Exactly.
otherwise? You don't
Because
necessarily
you are
need
telling-
Broom Kid himself in the flesh to be the next big hero, but
No.
that is a sure sign that there
There-
are more people that can help the cause.
And who knows, maybe within the Resistance, somebody ends up, hey, I think I'm, Force sensitive. Could it be a Finn? Could it be a Poe? Could it, obviously with Leia, but we're going to...
Isn't Broom Kid really in the movie to validate the way that they killed Luke? To say that the legend of Luke Skywalker permeates and inspires throughout the galaxy. So giving him a martyr type status.
No,
Isn't
I
that
think
really what the
it's-
Broom Kid is about?
I think that's part of it.
I think that,
But
yeah.
I actually think that this probably speaks to how well Rey has been woven into the franchise. Is that I think it speaks to everything. I think it speaks to Luke's legacy and the potential for the future too.
Yeah, and I think the Broom Kid there is that, as Perry said, the legend of Luke Skywalker made it all the way back to Canto Bight and is inspiring him. But the very last scene is not, I'm Luke Skywalker and I'm a Jedi. I think that's a big part of it, sure. But it's that there are more Jedi out there. That they're out there that she's going to not necessarily rebuild. What's the story before the story? Everybody wants to know, is she going to rebuild the Jedi Order? I want to see this. I want to see the down and dirty, we're square one right now. We got to go find some people. We got to go find some Jedi, and she can maybe do some teachings. She can maybe have Luke there doing some teachings.
So you basically think
They're going to have to collect allies.
look, they only have 2 hours. Right?
Believe me, this is a monumental task.
Okay, so now from a screenwriting perspective, we have comparables, right? So are you saying it's going to turn into like a 7 Samurai type thing? Where it's like, here's the big bad, and we got to go recruit X number of people to fight against him? And then there's like a big showdown at the end? Because if that's what you're telling me, I'll sign up for that movie.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. I love it. I didn't
I
even
just don't see
realize
them
I was
going
doing
there.
Seven Samurai. I think it makes sense storytelling-wise, is that if you take what happened at the end of The Last Jedi, and it's classic. I love the moment that the heroes back to the wall, all hope is lost. Last Jedi is all hope is
I know,
lost,
you-
but there's a spark
You
out
also
there.
have to think that they have to pay fan service, even though there's no fans of it. To
I
Poe
think,
Dameron.
I think billion people.
No, yeah.
could
I mean,
disagree.
obviously, I'm being facetious, but
I know. Mm-hmm.
To Poe Dameron, right? Like you've spent so much time building up this idiot that you're going to have to give him something,
Right, and I think you're gonna
Rose is coming back,
Yeah.
with Finn, right? She's confirmed to come back.
right.
Rose is back in the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Kelly
Finn
Marie
and
Tran.
Rose. So hopefully Finn and Rose get some redemption to their like useless arc of Episode 8. That's going to take up some time.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have to sort out the situation with Princess Leia.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
going to be the most troubling.
Right. Then you're going to have to put in Rey. Right. So that's a lot of like passing out of like all of these. It's almost like it's become like this ensemble piece that's pretty equalized. Whereas in the original trilogy, yeah, Leia and Han were integral to the story, but they were also very, very much supporting characters to Luke's overall mission.
I mean, I think you can do it. I think if you look at the history that we've seen, I think that it's even there was a mirroring of Apprentice happening in Last Jedi. Leia basically teaching Poe how to be a good general. Didn't land with you. I understand that.
It didn't land with anybody, especially Poe.
It landed fine with me. I saw it and I liked it. I liked Poe, what Poe had to go through.
Poe didn't learn one thing from Leia in that movie.
You don't think so?
I mean, he completely went against everything she told him.
Yes, he did, because he thought this is the fog of war. I got to go shoot and kill everybody in order to get to a victory. And then she taught him that you have to actually try to save some of these people. And that another underlying theme was you don't destroy the things you love. And so at the end of The Last Jedi, he realized,
Right.
uh-oh,
So
I
that-
got to turn
so that when
around. We
she
got to
goes
save some of these
down-
people.
So, like in her sickbed, poor Leia, after she does her Mary Poppins thing, the first thing that he does is start a coup against Holdo, who obviously was like Leia's like best bud if she was
Right.
running the entire thing. That's his first that's his first action of heroism, is to do a coup while they're being chased by the First Order.
Well, he was
against
forced into that
Holdo.
coup. He wanted answers, and so he took action after that because he sent out Finn and Rose to go find
Right, but-
the code breaker and all these kind of things.
which all
fell apart.
failed.
Failures.
Failed.
Right.
Failure.
So it was all bad decisions.
Absolutely.
Bad decisions and failures that hopefully in episode 9 we see them take these failures and they gain new purpose.
yes.
The bad decisions and failures with no actual consistent consequence. Nobody ever told them, dude, like you really, really, really fucked up.
Leia did. Are you kidding me?
How? By rewarding him, say follow him? He knows exactly what to do. He's proven it the entire movie.
The very end, yes. Absolutely. He had that. She woke up. They had that resolution. She comes in and teaches him a lesson by stunning the F out of him with a gun and doing her gun coming out, because he almost did a mutiny. He did, and absolutely he believed he needed to do it in that moment. But then it was like the plan was always there. You didn't need to let Poe in on that, according to Holdo. But then Leia comes in and cements it. At least to me, it worked very well for me. However, I understand.
Yeah.
I can see.
But
Some of the execution didn't really work, and I am the first to say absolutely didn't work
forget
that
about
well.
that for a second. My bigger point here is, how are all these things going to impact now episode 9, right? If
That's the question of the ages.
If we're saying we have a pretty good idea of where the trajectory of Kylo is, right? It seems like we're all in agreement
Yeah.
that we all know it's going to be redeemed, not redeemed.
Yeah,
right?
it's gonna be something.
It's going to be something like that. Like, is he coming back or is he not coming back?
There really is only
See,
two
but
ways
that's
to
the
go
thing.
with
when
it.
when you look at the dark potential and the light potential, basically the dark is primarily geared towards Kylo. Hux is there, but Hux is kind of a secondary nobody to Kylo, which is what he's always been. And I
Yeah.
think I've kind of been amused by that to a point. But
Me too,
when
yeah.
you go to the light side and you think about the main players there, you're right. There are so many that if we're talking about a 2-hour movie, I don't see how they're going to wrap it up in a satisfactory way for every single one of them. They're just going to have their work cut out for them. But that's kind of the hole you dig yourself to a point when you unveil so many brand new heroes, especially so many heroes that did wind up striking a chord with people. Because when we first started with Force Awakens, I figured that we were going to end up in a place where, Rey and Finn, that's cool. They could do that. But now it's not just Rey and Finn. We also have to wrap up Leia's storyline. We also have to now incorporate Rose and Poe. And because especially with what Poe went through in The Last Jedi, I thought that they were in a pretty good position in Force Awakens to kind of have Poe be, a really solid, reliable right-hand man. But he went through a pretty traumatic experience that is going to have to be addressed in 9. So now all of a sudden you have at least half a dozen main heroes that need to, one, use the lessons they learned and wrap up this trilogy in a satisfying way.
Like hearing, first of all, I agree with everything Perry's saying.
I did too. That was great.
But when I'm hearing Perry talk, I'm just like, wow, man, it sounds like a little kid who just told a really bad lie. And he's got all of these.
Welcome to Rule of 2, Perry.
He's got all of these loose ends all over the place. Has no idea.
You don't think JJ has any idea how to do this? Is that what you're saying?
No.
You're talking about Rian Johnson.
I'm talking about just the state of the saga.
Yeah.
It's like this yarn that little Dewey the cat got up and started
pulling at it.
It's just like this big mess, and look, I think they have. First of all, I think that I've heard so many weird stories in the past month. Mm-hmm. I've heard stories, and I'm just going to say it here because only 20,000 people listen to the show.
Only 20,000.
But
sir, there are a lot of the podcast people. Just keep going up on that one.
I've heard stories that Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams do not like each other.
I've heard that too.
Okay,
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that?
I've heard it. It's so hard for me to believe that they would have let Rian Johnson take this really expensive franchise that's really important to this brand and just run with it. We'll figure out how to deal with it in episode 9.
First of all, I completely agree with you. But if you look at the result, the empirical evidence speaks to that. It does speak to that.
I don't think we could assess it that way though until we see episode 9.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
it's all good.
But you know what else I heard? I heard that Rian Johnson. This one is a rumor. This is like a bad rumor, but I've heard that Rian Johnson actually wrote the script before the Force Awakens script was rewritten by.
He wrote it. No, he was writing it while they were filming Force Awakens. He had finished it before Force Awakens even stopped shooting.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
But the script is there.
Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I absolutely think they're in pre-production on episode 8 while they're working on episode 7.
In that interview with Collider that Rian Johnson did, I think in that interview he does say that he wrote the script independently of the other folks. And that he was asking for opinions and stuff like that.
Well, he knew what was coming. He had the script. He had the story. He met with, this is what I've heard, met with J.J. Abrams.
But did he write episode 9 too?
There was a false report that said he was going to write the outline for episode 9, but that it was just 8, write and direct 8. He got all the story beats. He knew what was happening. He was watching dailies. He went and saw footage, filming of Force Awakens. He knew what was happening with Force Awakens. He gets a bad rap. I mean, J.J. Abrams threw him.
He does get a bad rap.
He gets a bad rap. No, but what do you do when J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan gives you the script for Force Awakens and says, wait, Luke's not even in the entire movie? Where did he go? Oh, he went to Octu. Here you go, buddy. Have fun.
This is what I'm saying, though. Yeah. I feel like I'm not ready to fully judge Rian Johnson's work and what he did with this franchise until I see how they run with what he did in the next movie. Because I think we could wind up seeing things in episode 9 that hint at, he really did know what he was doing and he was teeing up this pre-planned story. Because this is a franchise here. It would have been the dumbest decision in the world, and I just don't understand. I know some people take issue with how Lucasfilm and Star Wars and all that stuff is being run right now, but it's just priority number 1 is planning for the future. It's not just letting one filmmaker in the middle of a trilogy throw things against the wall and then keeping your fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can see that there is empirical evidence that points that perhaps that is the case. But you're right.
Yeah, I'm not willing to say that and agree with that until I see episode 9. Once I see episode 9, I might be on the same exact page as you.
No kidding. Episode 9.
You gotta get the full story to your point.
Yeah.
Yes, episode 9 could come out and make me change my mind on The Last Jedi because of where we are.
Yeah.
Even Force Awakens. That's why it's a monumental task that J.J. Abrams
We didn't
hasn't.
even talk about what I wanted to talk about. And they just gave us the red light.
And we're wrapping it up. That's going to do it for, I'm serious, that is it. That's episode 19.
Is
That's
it already?
Wow, I
That's
didn't
it.
even realize what time
We
it
got to
was.
wrap it up, guys.
This was fascinating,
Yeah,
by the way, to
it's-
be able to sit here and watch the two of you kind of ping pong back and forth.
Oh, man,
it's really
I
interesting.
feel like we didn't
to,
accomplish anything on this one.
This is what I'm talking about. I felt like we accomplished everything. You know why? This is what we accomplished. A hell of a good show.
Yeah.
I even went, hell of a good show.
And I wanted to ask Perry, because Perry is the only person at Collider that's ever interviewed George Lucas.
I know.
You know, so I wanted to talk to Perry about that. We didn't.
No, we
Right?
got on this tangent. This is the thing. This is why it's an
bright
amazing
future
episode.
For Rule of Two, a whole 2019 filled with episodes. There will be many opportunities.
There will be Perry will
All
be
right,
back.
good,
But this is the
good.
thing, and this is why I stand by this episode. One damn comment. I don't even know where it started. You, or me, and we talked an hour and 5 minutes about it.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
Star Wars is. That is why we do Rule of Two. This is why we love the franchise, even if you don't like The Last Jedi that much, or you do, or I do,
Yeah.
or maybe you like the prequels more, or maybe you're a Empire Strikes
We
Back
all
guy.
love Star
you
Wars.
love
We
Star
all
Wars.
love Star Wars.
The story was enough in Last Jedi to get us talking about the entire
Yes.
episode.
Good point. That's a very good point.
And that's what I love, and that's why we
we
do
really
have
done?
to
We're
end
done,
it.
huh?
We
Yeah.
are done. It's episode 19 of Rule and 2. Please
Thank
leave
you,
some
Perry.
comments.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Perry, for joining us. How'd you like the episode, guys? If you're on Collider Podcast, drop in some comments. We do check them out. But remember that next year, 2019, the first one out of the gate, we're going to be on Collider Video. You'll see us there alongside Jedi Council, alongside Movie Talk, alongside Collider Live and Heroes and all the great stuff
yeah,
we have going
Wednesdays,
here.
keeping the same day Wednesday.
We will keep Wednesdays the same time,
Yeah.
but make sure if you like this episode and you want to give it 4 stars, great. But 5 stars would be greater. And you know what? You can find it on the Podcast One feed. Collider Jedi Council drops every Wednesday. It's episode 19 in the book. Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Mark Fernandez. We'll see you next week.
Rise.